today, let me show you what we'll try to do today. If we'll have time, we'll try to show something like this. Basically, we'll do a new UI that you can, with a click of a button, you can change the model you are viewing, and we'll try to do, when you move the mouse, that you rotate the camera, the render view, and we'll try to do a bit of a graphical updates to the final render, like bloom you see here. So okay, let's start. Open Unity Hub, and once you got Unity Hub open, there's a button here, new. So click on the new button and it should open you this window. Now here you have a location. Here is a location where your project will be saved. So I have it set on my D drive under projects. And then let's name this project NTF. Okay, let's do it like this. And let's create the project. Once it's done, you should see something like this window. Now we have a few screens here. You can see here we have hierarchy, we have a scene view, we have project, we have inspector here. These are all the windows in Unity that will give us all the information we need about the different components on the objects. So the first thing I always like to do is go here in layout, and I choose 2 by 3. Yeah, I choose this layout, and then I use this. You can actually drag and drop all the project windows. So what I like to do is I take the project and I adjust it here. So this will give us a bit better view. So we have a scene view here, and a game view. A game view is something that it's gonna be our final view that user gonna actually see. Okay, quickly about the scene view. In scene view, we can pan around with the middle mouse, and we can rotate. If you click Alt and left click, you can pan around. We can also move certain objects. You can select them in hierarchy or in the view. So basically hierarchy is everything that is in a scene, it's in hierarchy. So basically it's pretty simple, standard 3D controls. You move on the axis. You can also rotate on the axis. Pretty standard. Okay, let's start with something simple. Let's create a simple cube in our scene. Go to hierarchy window here, this one here. Right click and create, right click. Go under 3D objects and let's create a cube. And now we have a cube created in the scene. Now we can move it around, position it. We can position it to a camera, so the camera will actually see it when we play the game. Next we have game view. Okay, game view I explained. This is basically what user will see. Then we have a project view here in this scene. Everything here will be everything you need in the project you bring into here. So basically here are all the folders we're going to be creating, or bringing all the models, all the textures and things like that. And finally we have inspector here. Now currently you don't see anything, but if you click on any object, let's see on the main camera, we got all the information about this object. We can also move the object here, we can rotate the object here. We can change a lot of different things depending on what kind of component the objects have. Okay, so let's start creating our project. The first thing I also do in the project window, I slide this one to the lowest, so it gives us a bit nicer presentation, at least from my opinion. Okay, let's create a folder here. So go to the project window, under assets, right click, create folder. Yeah, I'm gonna call it lesson 8, let's say, and I'm just gonna drag and drop, click on the scenes and drag and drop it into the lesson 8. So we have a bit nicer organization. Okay, next I'm gonna create new folder. We call it model. In this folder we're gonna be bringing all the models that are on the Google Drive that we shared in the lesson 8, or you can bring your own if you wish to assign your own. So how we bring the models here, it's basically pretty easy. Let's double click on the models folder. It's empty. Basically, if you already have a folder structure that you have all here created, like FBX and textures, everything, you can just grab the folder and drag and drop it here. And it will start importing the files. If you don't have this kind of structure, you can just create a folder, and the next one is, let's say, we'll bring in keep. You'll open the folder. Again, we are in the keep folder, and let's say we will drag and drop an FBX file. We wait for it to import. Let's create a folder called textures, and let's drag and drop this to textures. Now let's do the same for this samurai. Or we can just select everything and okay, we have now everything imported. Okay, so now we have everything in here. Let's go first to our samurai model. We have samurai low FBX file here. So let me explain a bit here in the inspector view. If you click on samurai low, you'll get a few tabs here. It's called model, rig, animation, materials. These are different import settings that you can tweak if you're bringing the model, it doesn't show correctly or something. You have a lot of options here. We won't be going into these options, but what we'll be going into today is, if you click on the materials tab, there's a thing called extract materials right here. So let's click here, extract materials, and just use our texture folder. If you see here, it's under model samurai. Basically this is this folder, and just select this folder. Now it will create us a new material. So if you go to this material now, okay, let's just bring the model in so we'll see what's happening. To bring the model in, it's the easiest to just click on it and drag and drop it to the hierarchy view. At the moment, our model is white because it doesn't have any textures applied to it. So if you want to start applying textures, we just go to this texture folder and find the model, this thing with a ball. It's a material. So let's see, we have different maps. We have albedo trans, we have height, normal, and specular smoothness. So since we are now, this is specular, we should go to, okay, should go here and use, no, it's already on specular, sorry. Okay, one more thing. If you go here, window, it's like here, file, edit, asset, game object window. Let's go to package manager. We bring some stuff in that will make our things look even better. So when you got package manager open, go here where the plus is, here packages, and click on Unity registry. We'll see a lot of packages here. Find a package named Universal RP. It's close to the bottom. It's here. It goes alphabetically, so it's under U also. So once you find it, click on it and click install. Okay, now we have our Universal RP imported. So let's go back to our project window here. In lesson 8, let's create a new folder. Let's call it renderer. And here, let's again right click, create, and now find a rendering. And here, universal render pipeline, and click pipeline asset forward render. Click on it. You can leave the name as is, and this will create us two new files. Now we need to connect these files to the new Unity renderer. So go to Edit, Project Settings, and it will open a new window. In Project Settings, find a tab named Graphics. When you have graphics opened, you have here an scriptable render pipeline settings. You have none. So basically, just find at the end of this field, there's a circle with a dot inside. Just click it. A new window will open, and just select this thing. Double click. It will assign it here. So let's also go to quality. It's in project settings. It's here. And also the same procedure under rendering. We have none. Find this circle, and again apply this thing. Now the last step is to change from gamma space to linear space. So basically just go to player, and there are other settings. You have rendering and color space. Just click here to linear and change to linear. So now we see our model turn pink. That means that there's something wrong with the material we have. And since we changed the renderer, we need to find this material again. It's called model. It's under model summary textures if you followed my folder structure. And then go here in the inspector. You have model and shader. There's like a drop down here. Here it says standard. Find universal render pipeline and select lit. And we're back to the white. So now we know our workflow is, since we have a specular smoothness map, we know it's specular. Just change this workflow to specular, and then use albedo trans in a base map. So basically how you assign it, you just click on the texture and drag and drop it to this square in the base map. And we have the texture applied. Let's do the same for the normal map. We find normal map here. We drag and drop it and apply it here. Now, normal map Unity will give us kind of a warning that the texture is not marked as normal map. So basically what we do is just click fix now. And let's also apply the height map. It's under normal map. This is our height map. And finally, let's also apply specular smoothness and just drag and drop it to specular map. Okay, this is our first model textured. Let's go to the next one. Let's go to custom. The procedure is similar. So basically you go to custom, use the custom UDM low. This is the ABX file. And again, in the inspector window, there's like materials and extract materials. And again, select the textures folder. And this will give us these two new materials here. We always know that it's a material because it has this ball here. So now let's just assign everything to these two. So this is UDIM 1001. So basically everything with 1001 will go to 1001. Everything with 1002 will go to 1002. But so we'll see that we are actually applying something. Let's just bring in the model. Again, you bring in the model by drag and dropping it to the hierarchy. And the model is here. Okay, we see that the model has a bit offset pivot point. Basically, you can fix this pivot point in Blender or Maya or whatever you use. But for now, we're just gonna quickly fix it in Unity. So what we're gonna do, we'll go to the hierarchy and we'll right click and create empty. It will create a new game object and we'll just call it, let's say, Costa. Okay, we have this transform now. We see that it's not centered. We can quickly center it by going under transform, and to the right side there are 3 dots here. Just click it and click reset, and it will jump to the middle. So now let's assign this as a parent to our FBX. So how you do that is basically you click on the Costan and you drag and drop it here. So now this is our parent. If you move this one, also the FBX will follow. So now let's approximately assign where the floor should be. The floor on the samurai model is okay. So basically we're gonna try matching it to here. So let's take the Costan and just move it a bit up and move it a bit to the left along the z-axis or right, depending on from which position you're looking at. Okay, let's say this is fine. Now we also want to scale it. Now if you're gonna scale it here, because of the pivot point, it's gonna scale to this side. So what we do, we can take this pivot point and just scale it here, and let's just match it approximately that it's the same size, so that we won't have any problems later on. Okay, let's go back to our textures folder under Costan, and let's just assign all the texture and see that we are assigning the correct material. So here we have matte smooth. This means metallic smoothness, so basically we'll stay on the metallic workflow. So, and it's 101, so 101 base map, 101 metallic map, and 101 normal map. And let's fix the normal map, and let's do the same for the second one. Base map, metallic smoothness, and normal map, and fix. And we have a model textured. Okay, let's bring the next model, the keep, and it's also a bit offset and quite large. So let's create again in the hierarchy, create empty, and let's name it keep, and again reset everything so we have nice everything in the center. So let's parent it again, drag and drop under keep. Okay, let's move it a bit up. Let's say around here. Okay, we can always adjust it later. Okay, again, you want to scale it. Okay, this should, I think, should be a bit bigger. Let's move it here. Let's move this one a bit here. Okay, let's texture it. So again, click on the FBX and let's extract the materials to the texture folder. And we have UDIM 101 and 102, so we'll be assigning it to the correct slots. And these are specular smoothness, so we can change both of these workflow to specular. If you want to change multiple materials, you can just shift select and then workflow to specular, and it will change both the materials. So let's assign albedo trans to the base map, normal to to this one, and specular smoothness to this one, and fix the normal. Let's do the same to 102. Specular smoothness 102 and proba normal 102 and fix now. Okay. Next thing I wanted to explain is something about the textures. It's basically the same thing. You always go to the inspector and you have all the different import options you have here. For now, we won't be touching anything that we use on 3D, but we will change the textures that we use on the UI. And let's do this now. Let's create a UI. Okay, go. I also like to do in game. I usually do 16:9 aspect, so it's always scaling nicely. Okay, let's create an empty, and let's be a bit more organized. I'm gonna name this empty UI. You can name it whatever you want, and let's reset it so we have on 0. Okay, let's create also some containers for our objects. So let's do another empty, call it rendering, and also let's reset this one to 0, 0, 0. Okay, on rendering, we're gonna take our main camera and direction light. You do this by shift selecting and just drag and drop it to rendering. I like to have the rendering options on top, so I'm gonna move it on top. I'm doing this just so that I can hide some objects so that I have hierarchy more clear and it's easier to access some points or objects. Okay, let's create another one. I'm gonna call it content, and also let's reset it to 0, 0, 0, and this will be our content. So now we have a bit nicer hierarchy. Okay, now let's go onto the UI and right click on the UI, and let's find in here in the creation option, find UI and create canvas. This is basically Unity's UI. So it's going to create a new object named canvas, and we'll also create a new object called event system. What I like to do is drag and drop it to the UI so everything is in its own folders. Okay, now click on canvas and go to the inspector. Under the inspector, you have rec transform, canvas, canvas scaler, graphic raycaster. For now, we're just gonna be focusing on canvas scaler, and we're gonna here under UI scale mode, we're gonna set it to scale with screen size, and we're gonna put in the reference resolution of Full HD, which is 1920 to 1080. And let's just save. Ctrl+S for saving, or you can go here, File, Save. Okay, let's create 3 buttons. We want each button will hide the rest 2 models and show the model we want. So what we do, we want to have them somewhere on the bottom of the screen. So let's again right click on the canvas and let's create empty. Let's call this bottom. At the moment, it's not really visible what we're doing, but when you are on bottom, go to the inspector tab, and here under the rec transform there is some cross here with a yellow dot. Click on it and it will open a drop down menu, and Alt Shift to this picture. It's the bottom stretch to this one. So what this will do, it will stretch our entire canvas. This white thing is our canvas. It will stretch it from left to right. So we also have height here. So if you want it a bit higher, let's do it like this. Let's say we want height 200. Okay. Now, next thing we want to do is create on this bottom, we want to add a new component. So basically, again, in the inspector, go to here, add component, and it will open a new window. Yeah, these are all the different components you can add to object, but for now we are looking for horizontal layout group. Basically here in this bar you can search for it. So basically it's HORIZ, and this is what we are looking for. Click on it, let's add it. Okay, it's gonna soon become clear what we're doing. Let's add here, let's go to bottom, right click, UI, and let's create a button here. Don't use button text mesh pro, but just use button. Okay, so now we have our button. It's created here in the top left corner of what we assigned. Let's go back to bottom and now find this horizontal layout group. We have child alignment. So basically if we start playing with this, we can quickly, without hassle, change where we want our objects to be appearing. For this example, we're just gonna use middle center. We'll do one thing. Also here under child force expand, just untick width and control child size, just click height. This will stretch it to the entire size of our bottom. So maybe it's a bit too big. Let's see, set it to 150. It's a bit better. Maybe if you want to move it a bit higher, we have this left and position Y. Let's just use position Y to bring it a bit up. Let's say 50 should be fine. Okay, let's duplicate this button 3 times. So how you duplicate in Unity is basically you just select the object and then Ctrl D, Ctrl D, Ctrl D, Ctrl D. Now we have button 3 times in a horizontal group, and we didn't have to bother about positioning it too much. Now maybe they are a bit too close together, so go again to our bottom here, and under horizontal layout group you have spacing. Let's say 50 I think should be enough. This will automatically space it for us, so we don't need to worry about spacing it. Okay. Now let's expand every button here, and since we will not be using text, we will be using the images. Just disable the text, or if you want, you can also delete it. But I'll leave it disabled for now. Okay, now let's go to our button. Let's go to the first button and just create, right click and UI. Let's find image here. Okay, we have image here. Again, select the image, go to the inspector tab, and here in this red cross, Alt Shift and select the bottom most right option here. This will stretch it through entire button. Okay, we want to see an image here. So we need to assign in image, we need to assign the sprite. If we use this button, we will not see things we want. So let's go to our thumbnails folder. These are the images we want to be representing. So let's just quickly select all of them and go in the inspector, texture type, select instead of default, sprite 2D and UI. And then hit on the bottom right, hit apply. Okay, let's go back to our image here, and let's see how we have them. Samurai custom keep. So we want the first button to be controlling, let's say, the samurai. So we have a thumbnail, samurai, and what you can do is just drag and drop it here, and we have this image here. Let's repeat the process for next 2 buttons. So go to the next button, right click, UI, image, select the image, and again this red cross, Alt Shift, and this bottom right option, and the next one will be Costan, and I just drag and drop Costan. And the same process for the last one, UI, right click, UI, image, and the thing left is skip. Let's put it here. Okay, let's stretch it to entire thing, and we have the buttons. Now you can control select all of them, and just to be sure, tick preserve aspect so they are not stretched a bit. Okay, let's now assign our buttons so that they will be showing the object. When we click on the button, they will show only the object that they are representing. So let's just close the buttons. On the first button, this is gonna be representing the samurai. Click on the first one, and okay, let's name it. So we know what we are representing. Let's rename them real quick. Okay, let's get to our button samurai. And here we also have a lot of components on here if we look into the inspector tab. Now scroll down until you see button and find on click. This is this box here. So let's create 3 options here. So you create an option by clicking plus. We need 3, so 1, 2, 3. So what we'll be doing is when you click this button, these things are gonna be executed inside the Unity when it's running. So let's just assign all of our objects under here. So let's go samurai low here, and then let's drag and drop cost on here, and let's drag and drop keep here. Okay, we have them assigned. Now at the moment it will not do anything because we have no function. So click here on no function, go game object, set active. And since this will be controlling samurai, let's toggle it on. What set active is, if you focus on the object, F to focus. If we focus on the object, active just basically means if it's visible or not. It's the same if you go to inspector and you have this check mark here, it's disappeared and it disappeared. So basically now we just have samurai visible. This is what our button will be actually doing in runtime. So let's assign both to cost and in keep. Let's go game object, set active, but don't tick it. And the same thing for keep. Now let's repeat the same process for cost and in keep. Find the button component, on click 3 times and just drag and drop these things in. Again, on click on no function, game object, set active. Since this one's going to be controlling cost on, we want active only on cost on. And let's do the same for our third option. Drag and drop everything, game object, set active. And this will be controlling the keep, so it will turn the keep on when you click on it. Okay, make sure that the first object you want visible is visible, like I did before here. So if you want the cost on to be visible, just go to cost on, tick it, and samurai low untick it, or however you prefer. I'm gonna leave it that samurai is our first object that we see when user starts the game. Now, okay, let's test our buttons to see they work. To test, in Unity we have these 3 buttons up here. So first one is play, second one is pause, and the third one is tab, but we'll mainly only be focusing on play button. So let's click play, wait for it until it turns blue. Unity needs to compile some things. Okay, when it turns blue, we know the game is running. So now if we go to our game view, we have these 3 buttons here, and if we click them, the first one nothing happens, but if we click on the second one or the third one, it just shows us the object it's representing and just enables it. Okay, now let's add a bit of a different background to the Unity. Now we have this background, you see blue on top, gray on bottom, and white in between. Let's create let's create a nice background. So in folders, you have this HDRI that we downloaded from HDRI Heaven. I made a link here in the text file, so if you want, it's a nice website with a lot of HDRIs, and they are free to use. So what we want to do is take this, I don't know how to pronounce this, but it's Roy2 Park or something like this. Just click on it, and now go to inspector. Here we will be also changing not the texture type, but the texture shape. Since this one, if you open it, is basically a panoramic cube map or something. Just go texture shape, 2D, select cube, and hit apply. Now it also changed an image here in the thumbnail. It will show an unwrapped cube. This means it's a cube map that we can use as a HDR rendering. So if you want to use it, we'll have to create a material. So in the same folder, just right click, create, and find material. Let's create it and let's call it HDRI. And now click on the HDRI and inspector. Under shader, we want to use a skybox. So find skybox and just use cube map. Now we need to assign the cube map here, so you do it like you drag and drop it here. So now we have our cube map assigned. Now we want to assign it to our scene. So now again, go to window. Oh, one thing, if by any chance you lose a scene view, you can always go find it here, window, general, and scene. We have it back. I'll just plop it back real quick. So let's go window, rendering, and find lighting. This will open you this window. And under environment tab, we see that we have our default skybox setup, but we want this HDRI. So what you do, you just take this HDRI and drag and drop it here, and we have a nice background. So if anybody wants any kind of different background, feel free to use anything from HDR Heaven. It's free. Okay, so now we see that our HDR background, the light shines from about this direction. So if we want to kind of want to fake this fill also with our direction light. Our direction light is currently shining from this point. So if you go a bit, if you click here, rendering main camera, and find directional light, you have a component on this object called light. So you can also tweak the color, let's say, to be more bluish, or we can intensify it or something like that. But for now, just leave everything as is. Maybe just put it pure white. Okay, we want it to be showing, shining from this direction, something like that. So the easiest way is just to have direction light selected, and then go to here, go to game object, and click align with view. So this now will be shining from approximately where our HDR have its light source also. Okay, now let's go to a bit more fun stuff, let's say. We want to, let's say, increase the quality of the game here that we have. We'll be using some post-processing effect that we'll be adjusting. Now let's create here in the renderer. Let's just create a new in project. Click renderer folder, and let's just right click and let's create a volume profile. Click it, let's call it volume. And let's go to our hierarchy in under rendering. Let's create empty. Let's call it volume. The name doesn't matter, but I like to be organized and call same things, similar names. So now click on volume and go to inspector tab and add component again. Again, this will pop up. Let's just search for volume and attach this component. Now we need a profile we just created. We can drag and drop it here, or we can click this button, this circle, and just assign it. At the moment it doesn't do anything, so also we need to change some settings on our camera. So find main camera, and in the inspector under camera find rendering and click post-processing. Okay, let's save. Okay, now go back to our volume and inspector volume. Let's add an override. Add override, this will appear. Click on post-processing and click on bloom. Now we have a lot of options here. We'll be just using threshold and intensity. At the moment nothing changes, but let's just increase intensity to 100 to see what it does. It blooms too much. So the settings I usually like to use is between 1 to 5, but let's say 3 maybe. No, 3 is also too much. I think this HDR will need 0.5 maybe, or 0.20. 0.25. Let me just check the reference. 0.2 might be nice. So now we have a nice bloom effect here, and especially if we come with the camera here, it gives this nice glow effect, bloom effect. And we'll be adding a few more volume overrides to try increase the final render image. So we'll add additional override called tone mapping. So just go post-processing and find tone mapping. It's here. Okay, click on mode and set to ACS. This will give us a really deep deeper black look, and it will be easier to adjust the contrast. So let's add another override. It's called post-processing, and let's find color adjustment. It's here, color adjustment. We'll be using post-exposure, contrast, and saturation. You can play with these settings however you like. I'm just giving you an idea of settings that look a bit nice. So I do post-exposure 0.5, and I increase the contrast by 10 points, and I increase the saturation by 25 points. So as you can see, our background here really now gets this nicer, greener color. Okay, and let's do another override, post-processing and split toning. We'll be using just the shadows and highlights here. And shadows, let's make them a bit darker, and highlights a bit brighter. You just click on these options here, and it will bring the color picker here. So now we got some nice effect here. But if we check our samurai now from this side, it's a bit too shiny. So we can do a bit of adjustment to our samurai material. So let's go to samurai, textures, and find this model. You can also find it here if you go to in the hierarchy, select samurai low and go inspector and find the mesh renderer. Under materials we have it here assigned. So if you don't find it, you can just click here and the Unity will automatically take you to the corresponding folder. So now this is a bit too shiny, so let's reduce the smoothness a bit. So something 0.1, 0.2 will work, or we can increase it to 1, but this will just make it too shiny. So I think 0.1 or 0.2 works nice for this model and for these settings we have here. this is pretty much it for the rendering part. But now if you press play in Unity, the user cannot really rotate and get the entire feel of the model. So we'll be importing another package that Unity provides, and it's very easy to use for this project. So let's go and import it. Again, find the window tab and go again package manager. Make sure you are Unity registry, and let's find a package called Cinemachine. It's under C, it's Cinemachine. Okay, let's install it. Okay, we got some error here, but we can ignore it. Nothing special. So now we got a new tab here called Cinemachine in the menu bar. So if you click on Cinemachine, we have a lot of options, but we'll be using free look camera. So just click here, create free look camera, and it will create us a new free look object. I like to drag and drop it back to the rendering because it's controlling our camera. But now, as you can see, our camera is not where it used to be. So it moved to the center of the scene, so we see a lot of clipping here. So we'll be doing some adjustments. If we click on CM Free Look 1, and under Inspector, we find component called Cinemachine Free Look. If you scroll down, we see that we have some kind of warning signs here, but don't worry, we'll be fixing that shortly. We need 2 new objects. So let's go under Content. Basically, we need follow and look at objects here. So we need to create them. Let's go under Content, create empty, and let's name it follow. And let's again right click on the content, create empty, and let's name it look at. The naming doesn't matter, but it's nice to be organized. So let's go back to our CM Free Look 1 and just drag and drop follow to follow and look at to look at. So now look at is pointing at the base of our samurai statue, but we want to be pointing to about the middle. So let's select our look at and go to move tool. This is W, or select it here and just move it up a bit. About here it seems nice. 1.2. Okay, you can also write here 2 or 1.2. Now go back to our CM Free Look and we'll just be adjusting few circles. You see this red circle here, here, and here. This is how you adjust where you want the camera to be moving. So let's just find them, and it's called top ring, middle ring, and bottom ring. It's under CM Free Look, Inspector, and Cinemachine Free Look, top ring, middle ring, bottom ring. So we want our camera to be a bit more further away, so we have a nicer feel of the model. So we need to increase the radius. So let's just increase the radius to about 6 or maybe 7. Will seems about right. Okay, let's test it out how it see. So just go press play, wait a few moments, and if you move the mouse you can start moving the camera. So top is not really the best. Okay, bottom is fine, but let's say we'll also be fixing top. So go out of the play mode and let's go on top. It's a bit too low, so let's increase it. About 6.5 should be okay. And let's increase the radius to 3. No, let's say 4. And let's see how this will work out. Okay, it's a bit better. Let's select the other model. Yeah, maybe let's pull it a bit more higher. So again, go CM3 look 1 and height. Oh, always leave the play mode if you're adjusting. So let's do height to about 8 and maybe even radius about 6. Let's see how this looks like. Yeah. Okay, let's also increase the bottom radius a bit. So yeah, I think this would be cool. So let's focus on our game view now. Okay, this seems a bit nicer, and we got also this nice bloom effects in the background. Okay. If you want to get rid of these red squares, just deselect CM3 look and you'll get the representation of what it looks like here. Okay. This would be pretty much it for what we have planned here. But the most important part here is, if you ask me, volume. Here you can really play along and create totally different effects. So basically, if you want anything else, you can go post-processing. Let's add lift, gamma, and gain. So let's add a bit of a gain and just increase it. You can change the contrast, gamma, everything. You can get really different looking result of the final view. Maybe somebody is looking for this kind of a final view or render. I don't know. Maybe not. Maybe yes. So basically, the most thing that you will get is basically this volume profile and creating a lot of bloom. Let's say bloom intensity. You can increase the intensity, or even you can change the color of it to be more reddish if that's preferable. Actually, the red color is not that bad. Maybe a bit yellowish. So it's not that bad. So the most important part, for at least for rendering, is this volume profile. The easiest way that I found is basically organize everything you want exported into one folder. Now we have everything nicely packed to lesson 8. So basically just select this folder, right click and export package. And tick, you will automatically have this ticked, include dependencies. Sometimes it will bring some other files you don't want. So if you have everything in the folder, just untick this and it will give everything that you want. Click export, select where you want it exported, click save, and Unity will compress it, and that's the package that you can send. So just open your Unity Hub and go to installs and find the version you have. So I assuming it's 23.91. So here you have these 3 dots, add modules. So here you add modules to everywhere you want to export. So if you want to export to Android, you have to tick, I already have it installed. So basically if you want to, you have to tick this Android build support, Android NDK, and OpenJDK. And the same for iOS. One thing about iOS, if you're going to be exporting to iOS, you will be exporting Xcode project. That is not the final file for the iOS. You will also need a Mac for that with Xcode to open the Xcode project, and you will need to export through the Xcode the proper IPA file that you can run on the phones. So the easiest, if you're don't own a Mac, is just to use Android build support. Once you have this installed, you have I think you'll have here install or something like that. But you can also export all other other platforms here. At the moment I only have Android, so once you have that installed, go back to your Unity project and go here, File, go Build Settings, and you would want to be switching a platform to the Android. So if you click here, it will give you switch platform. So click on it. This will take some time. Depending on the project, if it's a large project, it can take up to a few hours to recompile it, but this one I think it should be done in a few minutes, a minute or two. It should compile everything. Okay, so I see that our light got a bit messed up. If you get this kind of bluish tint for some reason, it means Unity didn't compile something correctly. The easiest way to fix it is just go to hierarchy, directional light, and just rotate it a bit or do something. Unity will fix the. Okay, now your Android. Basically, then you get build and run. The easiest for you, if you're not tech savvy, is to connect your phone to the PC and click build and run. Otherwise, build and you will get APK file. You copy the APK file to your phone and install it from there. But you need to do a few things beforehand if you want to build it to Android. Here you go to player settings. And in player settings, you will want to scroll down to other settings and override default package name. Let's say it always have to follow this convention. It's com.companyname.product name. So in this case, it would be something like this: com ntf, and let's say don't use numbers here. Just use letters. It also might be now smart to increase the Android to something like 6 or maybe 8. I don't know if anybody is still using 4.4, and it also might not work so well. So I think 6 would be a nice settings, yeah, nice version. And once you have this, you can just do build or build and run. I won't do it now because this will really take probably about 10 to 15 minutes to build, but you can do it home and try it out.